people are cooning for their crowd. You know, they got this whole thing like there's no such thing as bad press. They don't care what people are saying about him as long as people are saying their name. He's emblematic of the way that a lot of people in America these days think. You know, they're not brave, but they're reckless. It's all of this fake shit, like, I'm just telling it like it is. It's like, nah, you playing it up so that, you know that's going to draw a crowd. They're entertainment products, so they're only interested in drawing the biggest crowd that they can. And it's psychological, emotional rubbernecking. People are driving by a burning car on the freeway. They have no intention of helping. They just want to see the blaze. They're perverting a human need to watch spectacles.
You should probably record this.
Look, Yashin Bey, we know him as Most Def, speaking truth to power. There's no question. Talking about, of course, the Stephen A. Smiths of the world. No question about it. Good morning and welcome to the National Newspaper Publishers Association's Let It Be Known. This morning, a petition, and we really, really should pay attention to this. And we're going to go into why we feel like this should be paid attention to. A petition has circulated asking that President Biden pardon former Baltimore State's Attorney Marilyn Mosby. We're going to talk about that this morning and zero in on something that's very peculiar about that, and why Kamala Harris, the vice president, should be at the leading the charge on this. She should be knocking on the office next door or above her and saying, Joe, can't let Marilyn Mosby go to prison for 40 years. They'll talk about that this morning. Police used stun guns and tear gas on Emory University students and activists protesting Israel's war in Gaza. Protests continue. We will mention that as well. Break that down a little bit. The Supreme Court, seems poised to help Donald Trump in his immunity case. We will tell you the highlights from yesterday's very interesting arguments. And again, pay close attention to what the Trump side is arguing. Again, when they tell you who they are, they tell you what they're going to do. Believe them, because something came out in that hearing yesterday. Some things came out, but something came out that is a reminder of why this guy is a danger to the free world. Air pollution is killing people of color, permeating our neighborhoods. The latest American Lung Association report shows just how bad it is in communities of color. And in case you missed it, Reggie Bush is getting his Heisman Trophy back, and it's all because of the money flowing in to athletes into the college sports via the name, image, and likeness deals and other deals as well. So he's going to get his Heisman back. We'll talk about that on this Friday. But some quick things first. I wanted to mention first, democracy defenders have held a ruling from a U.S. federal judge striking down a 19th century North Carolina law criminalizing people who vote while on parole, probation, or post-release supervision due to a felony conviction. It was U.S. District Judge Loretta Biggs, an appointee of Barack Obama, who sided with the North Carolina A. Philip Randolph Institute and Action, who argued that the 1877 law discriminated against Black people. The challenge statute was enacted with discriminatory intent, has not been cleared of its discriminatory taint, and continues to disproportionately impact Black voters, is what the judge wrote in her 25-page ruling. Therefore, according to the judge, the 1877 law violates the U.S. Constitution's Equal Protection Clause. Mitchell Brown, who's an attorney for one of the plaintiffs, said the judge, her decision is going to help ensure that voters who mistakenly think they are eligible to cast a ballot will not be criminalized for simply trying to re engage in the political process and perform their civic duty. The attorney says, quote, it also makes our democracy better and ensures that North Carolina is not able to unjustly criminalize innocent individuals with felony convictions who are valued members of our society, specifically Black voters who were the target of this law. So the judge seeing things for what it was, Judge Biggs, um, not enough is being said about the job that Judge Briggs has done and is doing down south. And next, I want to credit, obviously, I'm going to credit comedian D.L. Hughley for boldly highlighting this as universities and colleges have tried to stop students and others from demonstrating and protesting Israel's war with Gaza. DL, to me, hit the proverbial nail on the head with the hammer. He says, what's ironic is that at the same time, universities are refusing to allow students to protest the war in Gaza by calling them hate speech. Mississippi is celebrating the Confederate Memorial Day, and no one says anything about that. Now, let that sink in. Let that sink in. This idea, and they're hauling these university presidents into um, Congress to testify and to try and get rid of them. There's another one at Columbia. Uh, Speaker Mike Johnson is calling for the president of Columbia to resign, talking about hate speech that they are allowing or promoting hate speech, anti-Semitism. But no one is hauling in anybody for celebrating and demonstrating and parading about the Confederacy. Uh, and DL also made this very profound but simple but profound comment. He also, when it talks about, he was talking about Donald Trump, um, and it goes back to again Stephen A. Smith and others. And we're not picking on Stephen A. We're just giving him what he deserves. DL says, ain't it ironic that some of the very people who believe that slaves have benefits think that Trump having to sit in a courtroom for 8 hours is torture? Yeah, let that sink in. And as Power 96 brings out, Martin Luther King Day is not a state holiday in Alabama or Mississippi. Both states celebrate Robert E. Lee Day. And speaking of Trump, a federal judge yesterday rejected his bid for a new trial in his sexual assault case brought by E. Jean Carroll. Now, pay attention again. Here's what the judge said. The judge says, quote, contrary to Trump's argument, Carroll's compensatory damages were not awarded solely for her emotional distress. They were not for garden variety harms, and they were not excessive. He says Trump's malicious and unceasing attacks on Carroll were disseminated to more than 100 million people. They included public threats and personal attacks, and they endangered E. Jean Carroll's health and safety. Furthermore, a jury agreed that he sexually assaulted her. This is a guy that's sitting in a New York courtroom and will sit in a New York courtroom again today, fuming over a very just prosecution. And folks want to defend that. Even Mitch McConnell has come out, and we're going to get into this in a little while, has come out and said presidents should be able to be prosecuted for crimes, even Moscow Mitch. And finally, another note before we get into the meat of our topics. Um, we all know by now, we've heard the decision in New York to the New York State Supreme Court overturning Harvey Weinstein's sexual assault, um, his rape convictions. But here's the thing with that. I only want, there's one piece that struck me with all of the headlines and all of the stories. suddenly the photo being ran on ABC News and others is the photo of Me Too founder, Tarana Burke. Why all of a sudden, why all of a sudden the black woman's face, who she founded Me Too, it was hijacked by what, Alyssa Milano and all these white Hollywood actresses. Hijacked. Because Me Too again was not specifically Tawana Burke did not start and found Me Too with the idea of the casting couch in mind, with the idea of Hollywood in mind. It was about corporate America. And no, and still to this day, corporate America has not seen the reckoning of Me Too. They took it Hollywood. And look, Weinstein is what he is. He is a criminal. He is he abused he was convicted of rape. He abused his position, but this wasn't what it was about. It was good that it was used to take him down, but here's the thing with that: they lost in all the sauce was Tarana Burke. They they started giving all these other women from Hollywood, these actresses and these wannabe actresses and et cetera, giving them all of the credit, the glory, the media attention. Pushed Tawana Burke into the background. Now, she's never complained about it, right? I mean, she's made a couple of statements that suggested that they had forgotten about her, and maybe that wasn't her intent. But nonetheless, all of a sudden, Weinstein's conviction is overturned. We know Cosby's conviction was also overturned, and they put all these other people's faces up when Cosby was going through his situation, and yelled "Me too, me too, me too," hashtag Me too, me too, me too, and Tawana Burke was nowhere to be found. You see the mind games mainstream media plays? Are you getting the connection here? I needed to bring that up because I found it ironic because I was as I perused various news sites, both I guess I don't want to say real news, but fake news sites as well. You know, those who purport to be news, and found Tawana Burke's photos. Now I guess now they're reaching out to Tawana Burke because now it seems like uh, Me Too has, in their view, has failed somehow. Me Too has not failed, by the way. Even with the overturning of Weinstein's conviction, it's not failed at all. In fact, a lot of progress has been made because of Tawana Burke's Me Too hashtag Me Too movement. Make no mistake about it. But I thought I'd point that out this morning. And now we're going to jump into something that, again, hopefully we're going to be paying attention. But first, we'll start off with this video. Angela Rye's request. We got it. Okay.
We have received such a wide and huge loving response to our podcast about Marilyn Mosby and what happened in her case. Since then, we have been working diligently to figure out the best ways to support Marilyn. And one of the things that became really, really clear is that in order to ensure that her case is heard from this administration, from the Biden administration, is to ensure that we have a petition. Yeah. And so that petition is now live. We will have a QR code on our page. We'll have links on our social pages, as well as in our podcast description for this episode, both on YouTube for visuals and on audio on iHeart. And so we hope that you will join us in signing that petition.
And so,
which
okay.
when you pay somebody for something, it automatically puts it to question in terms of credibility, and then kill the story.
So, Power 96 believes that there will be a pardon, but not until after the election. Um, and Michelle Madison says former state's attorney Marilyn Mosby did nothing more than the good old boys have been doing for years. However, she did break the law and should be held accountable. Her ex-husband, Nick Mosby, is seeking re-election for the Baltimore City Council presidency, by the way. Okay, with all that said, so this petition, they were only seeking 3,000 signatures, and looks like they've gotten that. Um, but here's the thing with that. Okay, because as we see Angela Rye, Ife Williams is back in this from the National Congress of Black Women. The petition, of course, again calls on the president to grant a full pardon for Marilyn Mosby, and she's facing 40 years when she's sentenced next month. 40 years. Now, understand a few things here, none the least of which it was the former administration's DOJ that opened this investigation, which to me gives the president even more of runway here to pardon her, and certainly the vice president should be at the forefront of this. Now, Michelle Madison, let me speak to your point of breaking the law. We are talking about $5,000, and we're not talking about her stealing $5,000. We're talking about her purchasing, allegedly making a false statement on a mortgage application. The mortgage was for $428,400. She was charged with falsifying it and charged with perjury because she said she received a $5,000 gift from her husband. The DOJ counted that she made the claim to secure a lower interest. I want y'all to hear all this. To secure a lower interest. They said her husband did not give her the $5,000. Instead, she transferred $5,000 to him, and then he moved the $5,000 back to her. So they're saying she gave him five, and he gave her 5,000 back, almost like a quick loan. $5,000, and she's facing 40 years with all of the work she's done, not just for Baltimore, but for the state of Maryland. You want to give her 40 years. Okay. So all you, and I wish Lauren Burke was with us this morning. And Lauren, I know when she gets a chance, she watches. And Lauren had mentioned some time ago that she thought that the New York trial with Trump was ridiculous. It was a waste of time. Not that she supports Trump. That was just her opinion. And I know I was at the barbershop not long ago, and I heard them say, everybody does it. Everybody does it. So Michelle Madison saying did nothing more than what the good old boys have been. That was their argument in the barbershop. Um, And I've heard people say it. And as we get into the weeds of the Trump trial, we're starting to realize that it's a whole lot more than just duping folks, right? And on a application, a judge has already called them out and hit them with what almost a $500 million in penalties because lying, and we're talking about in Trump's case by lying intentionally about hundreds of millions of dollars. This is not apples to apples. In Marilyn Mosby's case, we're talking about moving around $5,000 on a $420,000 purchase. $5,000 does not make a difference at all. At all. And as Power 96 says, and as it brings out in this petition, part part of the reason for her prosecution is the result of her prosecuting those Baltimore cops who killed Freddie Gray. They were looking for something. Now you can make the argument that in her position, you can't get away with the good old what the good old boys get away with. Black folks should know that. But there's no way. And then we're talking about again, when we're saying this $5,000, this is her money. It's like O.J. Simpson went to prison for 10 years, 9 years for stealing his own stuff. Why? Because folks had concluded, and I'm one of them, that he killed his ex-wife and her friend. And they found a way to finally get them. Marilyn Mosby prosecuted those cops relentlessly. And they did not like that at all. And so they want her to pay, and they want to send a message to anybody else, particularly Black women prosecutors. See, this is where Kamala Harris comes in, a former prosecutor. She's got to know what's going on. She's got to understand how wrong this is. She's got to be knocking on Joe Biden's door. Joe Biden should understand what's going on. I understand the election stuff. And see, yesterday we had Representative Ron Reynolds on, and we tried to we tried to break down to him, and we're going to get into that a little bit more. The difference between Republicans and Democrats. Try to allow for Democrats to step up to the plate and stop, moving, bunting and moving the runner over. Put your power hitter up and hit a grand slam for a change. Um, the fact that she is facing 40 years, and we're not talking about, again, we're not talking about theft. That's when theft is a crime that you get 40 years for anyway. But we're not talking about theft. We're talking about allegedly, and I'm going to continue to use allegedly because I don't, they say you accept the jury's verdict. I don't trust that she got a fair trial. So I'm going to continue to say allegedly. False statement, allegedly making a false statement about moving money to her husband. 5,000. If they were saying that she lied about $400,000, okay, hey. But even that should not get this former prosecutor 40 years in prison. And we don't necessarily we don't make it a habit of sticking up for prosecutors on this show. Black, white, or otherwise, man, woman, or otherwise. We don't. But this This is what we're dealing with in today, and with the MAGA folks. Because again, as I said, pay attention because it was the MAGA DOJ that began this, which gives the president even more political ammunition to shoot this down. Marilyn Mosby may have let, and I don't know the deal between her and Nick. I don't know Nick. Um, some of the council folks in Baltimore, I've had the opportunity to know a little bit. I don't know Nick. I don't know what their situation was. Um, but I do know that they need they need to get it together here. That Nick, ex-wife or not, as the city council president, he should be, and I don't know if he signed this petition. He should be at the forefront. Mayor Scott. So this is a federal. She was charged federally. So um, Governor Moore can't issue a pardon because it's not a state situation. But I still strongly suggest and hope that Westmore and Brandon Scott will be, between now and her sentencing, will be ringing the bell at the White House constantly. Joe could take a minute from campaigning. He could take a minute from his blind support of what's going on in the Middle East. And he could do something about this. Let this woman have a good night's sleep again, knowing that she will not be facing 40 years in prison. As Greer mentioned, they hated that a black woman was having success in Baltimore. She decided not to criminalize marijuana possession. It was things like that. I mean, she saw the bigger picture. And it's like when you get into positions like this this is why I have an issue with Muriel Bowser in Washington. Because when you get into positions like this, you have to, and this is why I have an issue with Barack Obama. You have to understand that not many came before you. In Barack's case, nobody came before him, and not many will follow you that look like you. And there is a treasure trove of injustices, centuries of injustices. No, you can't undo them all yourself. But heck, you can make the path a little bit easier. And Marilyn Mosby was doing that. Marilyn Mosby was doing that. And Power 96 says that someone is going to bring this up when the VP is on the campaign trail. I want to see her response. And I'll tell you what, um, next time that I'm at the White House, which is probably going to be next week, and next time I'm in one of those what they call scrums with the president, I'm certainly going to, or even at the podium with in the briefing room, if called on. That'll be my question. There's no way Marilyn Mosby should be facing 40 years. And this idea of later she'll be pardoned. No, let her rest now. Let her sleep easy, knowing that this thing is over with. And this is what that petition is all about. She was the youngest chief prosecutor of any major U.S. city when, in 2014, she introduced innovative programs offering alternatives to incarceration. What prosecutor does that? Offering alternatives to prosecution for non-violent drug offenders. She initiated one of the nation's few youth and prevention departments, whereas Muriel Bowser is wanting to jail these kids in Washington. April Ryan does get called on at the briefing room. She's from Baltimore. So, April, we calling on you to use some of your time to press the press secretary. I did, by the way, put a request into the president yesterday regarding a possible pardon for Marilyn Mosby. I sent my request through Roderica Applewhite, the director of Black Media at the White House. I've not yet heard back from Roderica, who generally is really good at getting back. It's very rare. If I pick up the phone and call, she answers the phone. If I email her, she responds. So far, this one has not gotten a response, but I'm not blaming Roderica. She's probably trying to get an answer, trying to get a response from whom she needs to get it from. And I'm sure she will come back with something, whatever she's permitted to come back with. And this prosecutor, Leo Wise, has long targeted Marilyn Mosby. And the petitioners said that Leo Wise is known for his history of profiling and pursuing black elected officials. And his involvement in Marilyn's case is suspect. They also argue, the petitioners, understandably so, that her confrontations with the twice impeached and 4 times indicted former president over potential federal agent deployments to Baltimore following George Floyd's murder was also a catalyst for the subsequent federal investigation against her. So there's a lot there. There's a whole lot there. And David Youngblood says April Ryan should absolutely every day ask about Marilyn Mosby. So we'll continue to monitor this situation, and we will continue to ask questions of the White House on Marilyn Mosby. And I'm sure Angela Rye, Ife Williams, and the like will continue doing what they're doing. Now, turning our attention to what is now a nationwide situation. These protests now Emory University. Um, awful scenes from Emory University in Atlanta yesterday. Activists actually released a statement. They sent out a press release saying that demonstrators were attacked with pepper spray, tear gas, rubber bullets, and tasers for the simple act of camping out on a school lawn. The camp and it was established on the Emory Quad yesterday in a protest launched by Emory Students for Justice in Palestine and a local activist group, Stop Cop City. Footage from the protests showed uniformed officers, some in helmets and gas masks, and holding guns that appeared to hold pellet bullets on campus. One video shared on social media showed a demonstrator handcuffed on the ground by multiple officers, one of whom using a stun gun on his leg. This is now a national situation. Yeah, they stunned, as Power 96 says, the heck out of the black man, and he was handcuffed. And I go back to what D.L. Hughley said. Go back to what D.L. Hughley said. This is what's happening. This is the important stuff to them. I mean, look at the artillery. Is that necessary? Is that even necessary? They were. This is what they called a peaceful protest, right? Yet this is how they're met. And yes, Michelle Madison, USC is one of them. She says they are canceling graduation at some universities. USC just announced that they're canceling theirs. This is how deep the demonstrations, the protests have gone when it comes to this. And again, listen, these are your constituents, Joe Biden. These are the folks you need. As we said yesterday, he must choose Netanyahu or his constituents. He must choose because seeing these sites, and it's getting worse. It's getting worse. It's not getting better. And so he has, and what really should be, the thing about it, it's like what really should be, he should be cruising, Biden, that is. He and Harris, the vice president, should be cruising to victory. You're going against a person, a very polarizing, to say the least, person who is on trial for felony conduct, including including inciting a riot at the U.S. Capitol that led to the lives of 5 law enforcement officers being taken. And as David says, storming the Capitol is okay, but sitting in the quad deserves rubber bullets, batons, and rubber bullets. He should be cruising to victory. Yet, his mind-boggling mismanagement, mishandling of this situation is costing him and costing his supporters, costing his constituents in a major way. Austin says the Democratic convention in Chicago is going to be chaotic like it was at the convention in that same city in 1968. Indeed. Indeed. Can you imagine? And because there's no end in sight for this. That's the thing. You can't say, well, August, it just perhaps things will have changed. No, it's not going to change because they continue to show their support for Netanyahu. And speaking of the opponent to Joe Biden, the Supreme Court hearing, and again, this is really interesting. You got to hear what happened there yesterday. The more important matter broadly went, of course, Trump's way. The only negative for Trump was that the justices appeared skeptical of the broadest argument made by his team that a president or ex-president enjoys virtually unlimited criminal immunity for any action committed in office. But against that, several of the court's 6 conservative justices appeared eager to draw a distinction between official acts and private acts and seemed inclined to offer the president protection from prosecution for the former, at least. They pressed the lawyers for the Department of Justice, Michael Dreeben. They pressed him hard on whether past presidents could hypothetically have been prosecuted for specific acts taken while in office. Sam Alito asked whether former President Franklin Delano Roosevelt could have been prosecuted for infringing the civil rights of Japanese Americans by interning them during World War II. Dreeben responded, "Today, yes." Of course, Uncle Clarence chimed in. He drew a similar hypothetical over Operation Mongoose, which was a clandestine CIA-led effort in the early 60s to get rid of the Cuban government led by Fidel Castro. The general tenor of the conservatives' argument drew implicit rebukes from their liberal colleagues. Ketanji Brown Jackson asked one of Trump's lawyers, why is it that the president would not be required to follow the law when he is performing his official acts? Justice Sotomayor complained that the principle that no one is above the law in his official or private acts has been somewhat put into suspicion here. But of course, with conservatives holding a 6-3 majority, the odds heavily favor Trump and his team. And another positive for Trump in the Supreme Court hearing, the apparent willingness of the conservative justices to emphasize a distinction between private and official acts opens the door to further delaying the trial on the January 6th related charges. That is the Washington case, that is Fonnie Willis's case in Georgia. Two of the three judges that Trump appointed, Neil Gorsuch and Brett Kavanaugh, suggested that more hearings could be required to adjudicate the distinction when it comes to the specific charges in the former president's indictment. More hearings, which means kick it down the road. He gets in office, all this goes away. And of course, that's what Trump wants. And of course, if he won the presidency, he, without question, would order the Department of Justice to drop any federal cases against him. Now, he doesn't have the power over state cases, such as his the trial that's going on now in New York, which is hence why it's going on, and the Georgia election probe. But here's the thing. If they rule that he is immune, those cases go away too. But here's the other thing. When we say listen carefully, because this guy continues to tell you what he's all about. His lawyer made a startling argument. It was very startling because, again, it reminds you again of what Trump said about if he shot someone on Fifth Avenue, that he could get away with it, that he would get away with it. He suggested the lawyer during a U.S. Supreme Court hearing suggested that a president could enjoy criminal immunity for killing a rival. This is what his lawyer suggested to the Supreme Court, to which Judge Sotomayor laid out this hypothetical. She said, so the president decides that his rival is a corrupt person and he orders the military or orders someone to assassinate him. Is that within his official acts for which he can get immunity? It would depend on the hypothetical, is what um, Trump's lawyer said. He said it could well be an official act. To which my girl from New York, the fabulous AOC, immediately seized upon on Twitter and again gave the warning. Take it seriously, she wrote, and take it at face value. This is not a game. And think about it. Think about it. a political rival, a corrupt person. This is what the lawyer was saying. How many times have you heard Trump refer to Obama and Biden and the Clintons and so many others as corrupt or as a rival? So his lawyer, without any care, stands before the highest court in the land and says that this, as an official act, you should not be able to prosecute the president. He should be able to take out a rival, have the military or just hire somebody like a mafia hitman. Get rid of him. Get rid of him. See, this is what we brought out. We was trying to bring out with State Rep Ron Reynolds yesterday. That okay, so they're going to, if they go along with this. Ron Reynolds, I could, I mean, to his credit, he's he's standing on what he feels is right, and I certainly not uh, bashing him in any way, shape, or form. He epitomizes what the Democratic Party has been about and remains, despite the rules of the games continue to change, and Democrats will not or are reluctant to change with the rules. So you're okay, Democrat. You're okay, Joe Biden, with this Supreme Court okaying the president to assassinate people. The man has already said that he's going to be a dictator. The man has already said that he believes that he should be able to serve as long as he wants. In other words, i.e., I'm going to make sure that they're never going to replace me when I get in. There's no term limit or anything like that. He's going to do away with all that. Because you're saying that the president, Supreme Court, you're saying that the president is above the law, totally above the law, untouchable. And yes, we were talking about yesterday off air, Greer and I and Ron Reynolds, about the movie Devil in the Blue Dress, one of my favorites. And the character, of course, Denzel's character was Easy, and then there was John Cheadle's character, Mouse, and Greer's reminded me that I'm Easy and she's Mouse. Mouse will take you out. Don't leave him with Mouse. But the thing about it is, folks want to sit there. Stephen A. Smith, I keep picking on Stephen A. Smith. You're doggone right. Stephen A. Smith's going to say, oh, you can't beat him at policy. What kind of policy is this, Stephen A. Smith? What kind of policy is this? This guy is going to, he said he's going to shoot people in the street, give police authority to shoot them down. You shoplift, shoot them. It reminds me of, in a hilarious way, it reminds me of Robin Harris, the late great comedian. Robin Harris said that he would get rid of all crime. He said everything would get you the death penalty. Jaywalking, death. Run the stop sign, death. He said that they would probably protest and say, no, I won't do it again. He said, I know you won't do it again. Death. Everything death. He even Robert Harris said they complained that the executioner, they can't find anybody to execute. He said he'll do it. As president, he would do it. He said he won't even take a lunch break. He said, you got to go, you got to go. And that is Donald Trump. on a serious note. That's what he said. This is not hyperbole. This is not, suggesting anything that the man has not stood 10 toes down on. And y'all want to play games? AOC said this is not a game. This is not a game. David Youngblood says if SCOTUS rules in Trump's favor, Biden immediately becomes monarch and should act accordingly right, right, with the court and Trump. That's what we were saying to Ron Reynolds yesterday. Hour 96 is on his way to the Tom Joyner cruise. Free Hennessy for 6 days. Have fun. Have fun. But exactly right, David. This is what we were saying to Ron Reynolds yesterday, the Democrat from Texas. But this idea of being when they go low, we go, yeah, right. Yeah, right. Because see, this is making it clear, which is a good thing. It should be a good thing. It's making it clear that it's not just certain people who have, certain people of color. It's not just us who have something to be concerned about. Uh, it's you too, Joe Biden. It's Hunter Biden. It's AOC. It's everybody else. It's everyone else. His rivals, his perceived rivals. So maybe that'll wake them up, right? Because there are no second chances, as Greer says, if they blow this. There's no second chances. Real quick, the American Lung Association's 25th annual State of the Air report shows that uh, Black people, Latino people, low income people, children, and older adults with underlying health conditions are disproportionately affected by air pollution. Uh, Despite comprising 42% of the U.S. population, people of color represent 52% of those living in counties with at least one failing grade for air quality. In counties with the poorest air quality, where failing grades are given for all three measures of air pollution, 63% of nearly 44 million residents are people of color. The air is bad in communities of color. It's the bottom line. That is environmental injustice, environmental racism. And finally, this morning, in case you missed it, Reggie Bush is getting his 2005 Heisman Memorial Trophy back after having had to relinquish the award in 2010. In a press release, Heisman.com said that the decision to reinstate Reggie's Heisman followed a deliberative process in which it closely monitored the, quote, enormous changes in the college football landscape. The name, images, and likeness. If you remember, Reggie Bush was forced to give back his Heisman after it was found that he had somebody given his mother some money or whatever. It was something crazy. It was a minuscule amount, and now you're getting all millions of dollars in this NIL deal now, and so it would be hypocritical to keep him and his Heisman separated. Now he doesn't have to be like O.J. Simpson and go and steal it from a collector, steal it back from a collector. So, Reggie Bush helped the Saints win their first Vince Lombardi Trophy a few years ago in Super Bowl, and they put those numbers up. I only know some Roman numerals, so I'm just going to spell it out. Super Bowl XLIV. Which one was that? So Reggie Bush got his Heisman back. Congratulations. Well, he was dating Kardashian back then too. That's why they took his Heisman. I'd have taken it from him too. That's they just ruined every black man who, if you're an athlete, or a rapper in black, the Kardashians are coming for you. Watch your back. don't don't do it. Don't do it. Reggie Bush is early testament. He's an early testament to that. Oh gosh, it's Friday. It's the weekend. Hopefully everybody got some great plans like Power 96 does. It's the White House Correspondents Association dinner tomorrow night. We'll be there. Dr. James will be there, and we will watch a whole room of white journalists laugh, which is funny in itself. So we will give you some updates on that. We will report that on Let It Be Known on Monday. Everybody have a safe and happy weekend. We'll see you on Monday.